Hello, everybody. Thank you for tuning in to WeebUwUs. Is that what we're calling ourselves, right? WeebUwUs? That's what we decided on.
Yep,
Yeah,
yep.
Yep,
all
yep.
right. My name is Ryan, and I'm here with the rest of the brethren.
I'm Emil.
I'm Chavez.
And I'm Wally.
Isn't that great? Say hello, everyone.
Hello.
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 So, what is this? Essentially, this is a podcast that me and my friends have started. And what we're just going to be talking about is things that we like, which mainly consists of all things like Japanese culture. I mean, I say that I use that term loosely because we really talk about anime, manga. We talk about idols, VTubers. We're talking about just like Japan in itself because a lot of us want to go there, but other things too, other passions that we have as well. And essentially, this is just something that we're doing because we want to be closer with each other. But we thought, hey, why the hell not? Let's turn it into a podcast so some of you can get to know us as well. So that being said, I'm gonna jump into my background real quick. Like I said, my name's Ryan. I grew up kind of watching anime. A lot of it had to do with my uncle. He was showing Gundam. He had like a bunch of Gundam episodes when I was younger. So I immediately got like hooked on that. Big robots. Love this stuff. I just like, what young boy doesn't look at like a robot running around blowing things up in space and say, hey, is this for real? Can I do this? And of course you can't. So that leads into the next thing that I got my that like kind of anime got me into. It got me into acting. I've been acting my whole life, and a lot of that acting came from seeing these fantastical worlds that were brought to life in the form of anime or cartoons, but mainly anime. It's like Gundam, Dragon Ball, stuff like that. And to even further go into that, when I started acting, I was like, wait a minute, these anime that I'm watching, some of them have Japanese voiceovers, and then the other ones have English dubs. And I know some of you are sitting there right now, and you're getting nice and hot in that, and you're going into your keyboard, and you're saying, I'm about to tear this man up. Yes, I like dubs, all right? It's not that I think dubs are better than subs. I'm an actor, and first and foremost, my dream is to be a voice actor for not only anime, but for video games, Western animation, all of those. I want to do it all. So that's how I kind of got introduced into like anime and manga and, just learning about Japan in general. But I really started getting to that when I met you guys. But yeah, that's my little intro of who I am. So why don't we jump into the next person? And that's going to be Emil.
Hey guys. Yeah, so pretty much like, I think most of us here are around the same age. So we were getting into anime. It's probably around when like Dragon Ball was out, and then Pokemon, Toonami, and then like was it like 4Kids? So like that kind of era where we had the Ryan's favorite dubbed animes. Don't worry guys, I'm team sub anime, just to put that out there. If y'all gonna hate somebody, y'all know who to hate. But yeah, so pretty much I just your typical you discover anime, and then you kind of just watch what it was on TV, and then as we got a little bit older, we started getting more into the cultured anime, you will say, like
Yes.
yeah, you know where I'm going with like stuff like Ichigo 100%, and you will go from there, like Love Hina.
Blade.
Yes, culture. No, but yeah, pretty much. So I was kind of like a watcher of all animes, kind of like shonen, shoujo, slice of life. Like there wasn't really like a limitation of what I was watching back then. I was just kind of watching everything that I could get my hands on. But then from there, kind of led into going to like anime conventions, and then like long story short, we'll probably explain this on in the future. But me, Wally, and Chavez here, we actually started like this production company for a little bit. It was called Edda Carne Productions. So that's kind of where we were cosplay photography, videography, kind of like my love for like cinematography. That's kind of like where I got my outlet out. So that's where we kind of were doing like video editing and stuff for like conventions. So that was something really unique to us that we liked in doing in the anime community. And then kind of from there, just kind of opened up to like the like streaming and like online community. So we kind of just do that on like the part-time. At least I do, and I know Ryan does that too. And
Yeet.
so yeah, where you catch us on Twitch, we'll play some of our anime games or gacha games or whatever we kind of feel like. Catch us on there. But it's long story short, just like an overall anime kid, manga kid who just kind of into everything, and then now we're just, we're here. So I'll probably pass it on to Chavez here because he's probably the one within the closest to sharing anime tastes as I have. He is the true cultured one.
Yeah.
Let's just say that.
Yo, what's up? Yeah, so my name's Chavez, and yeah, like kind of like what Emil said, we all have pretty similar tastes. For me, I actually started when I was being babysat by my older sisters. They would put on shit like Cardcaptor Sakura and like Sailor Moon, and as a kid, I loved it and I ate it up. And then there was like Camp Taro, Pokemon, Digimon, a bunch of like classics from like 4Kids and Toonami, and eventually it went to Adult Swim, and it continued onward into adulthood. And now, as like a working adult, now I'm like collecting Blu-rays of my favorite series, keeping up with the light novels when they're being released into the, by like Seven Seas or what have you, collecting like kind of like books and just trinkets and stuff, wall scrolls, you name it, figurines. And in high school it was kind of more about like shonen and definitely the cultured ones. And now as an adult, just nothing's changed. Just I'm here, and they've locked me down since I was a young kid.
Still a
Going to
degenerate.
conventions. Yeah, for real, right? The degeneracy started at a young age. They're like, oh, this one right here, he will go far.
Yeah, he is the chosen one.
You're our Anakin Skywalker, dude. But instead of becoming Darth Vader, you go around dressed like a Bleach character with a Naruto headband.
They're like, oh, he watched To Love Ru. He's on that path.
Yeah, for real, right? They're like, oh, this is just a stepping stone. This isn't even my final power, but this isn't even my final form. But but then in all honesty, then started as we got older, started going to conventions with Emil and Wally and Ryan. Had some mad fun. I then moved out to California and started going to conventions out here too. So like Anime Expo, lots of fun, lots of fun, and lots of stories too. But that'll be for another time. And I think with that, I'll pass the mic over to Wally.
Oh yeah. Hello folks. My name is Wally, also known as Bali The Waffle. I'm an artist, but and that is actually caused by my influence from anime. And obviously I was exposed to that in the Dragon Ball era. No, like every kid, every male, this was when I was in the Philippines, but yeah, every male there like was like all up into the shonens, but it's specifically Dragon Ball was like for some reason revolutionary, like not only worldwide but like in the Philippines in particular. Like there was just something about Dragon Ball that made everyone just yell at each other. They're like, yeah, I'm turning white, my eyes are getting blue. Yeah, there was definitely some awesomeness, like male testosterone, like inducing sense.
It was unlocking something primal within us. That's what.
Like all the boys became men, not through any other means, not by standard means. It's just like, how did you become a man? It's like, how did I become a man? I trained to be better than Goku.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so that show definitely like drew people into the medium. But for me, probably for many of us, but as a kid, I didn't know what anime was. I just knew that there was Dragon Ball, that there was Sailor Moon, and that's it as far as cartoons go. But the time I became aware of anime was because of a girl, and this was in like grade school still. But she was the one that told me about like that recommended me the very first cartoon that made me aware of what anime was, as in like anime wasn't just about fantasy characters fighting evil and stuff. And it was basically my first introduction to a romance anime called Boys B. And it was my first introduction to a romance story in general, and it made me realize that I had feelings way beyond what I initially experienced as a guy alone. Like it made me understand girls' perspectives because of that romance anime. And that was like that early on I realized that anime is more like a medium. It's like saying like movies or cartoons. It's a generic medium that encompasses various types of stories. And when I realized that there were so much more types of animes out there, then that's when I got hooked to. That's when I started looking to other types of shonen, and obviously the Gundams came out, and it made me fascinated with the transforming elements of it, and the mechanics of the designs, and then with drama along that with shonen, like uh, as shonen made me realize really early on that what it means to like fight for someone and potentially risk your life for for something that you care about the most. And I couldn't comprehend my emotions at the time, but all I remember was that I cried as a kid because I understood what it meant to have someone important. And that was around the time when like my grandparents were passing away, and I was just realizing like, oh wow, so this is what life is. Life is temporary, life is fleeting, and if someone or something tries to take that really early from you, you gotta fight like hell. And and so basically anime made me um taught me things that are invaluable. And that's when I knew early on that I wanted to be part of that industry. I wanted to be part of the storytelling medium that touches people and like passes down like moral lessons, or like makes people realize things about themselves that they couldn't have experienced either yet, or it makes them understand their situation a little bit more, because sometimes anime can be exaggerated, but it's still, at the end of the day, it still lays out the lessons in front of you clearly. So um and from that passion on, then I grew up and met friends, and that's how I met Emil and my cousin Ian, and Chavez and Ryan, of course. And we all gathered from the same passion, going to conventions and studying the entertainment that we grew fond in, that influenced our lives. And eventually uh, we got to this point where we gathered to talk about our stories with you guys, and more to come, of course, in the other episodes. So
Yes, sir.
Absolutely.
And I do think it's kind of interesting actually, because like like what Wally was saying, like with anime, it gives you like a lot of life lessons, and then like it really becomes like a source of like motivation to do things. Because like at least for me, I remember just watching like several different like more on like anime stuff like Bakuman, or like kind of more on like just kind of like the slice of life, showing how people are like trying to achieve their dreams of like becoming a mangaka. I remember at that time I was always talking to Wally. I was like, "Hey, dude, we should like write a whole story, and we should like make a manga and like whatever."
yeah.
And
Hell
like,
yeah.
so like whenever like I feel like whenever I get into like the like watching anime, and then it kind of is more on the artistic side, trying to show like how people are struggling to achieve their dreams. I think it's kind of correlates to like moments like this of like when you want to like pursue things. Like I remember I wanted to do more videography, because like I wanted to replicate the like those cool scenes you see in anime, but put them into like videos. Or like now we're here, like we've throughout all the years we've been watching anime, and we have all these stories we want to tell. Now it's like it led us to like this podcast, kind of where like, oh yeah, now it's our time to share from what we've learned from like these past years, and like pass it on to the newer generations, to kind of let people out there know like hey, there's life lessons out there you get from anime. It's not just a cartoon. Like it's deep. Like you actually learn things. Like you learn lessons. Like it helps you grow up, and like that's something like obviously we kind of want to share with everybody.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, like I mean, like with me, it was anime literally set the trajectory for my life. And like some people might be like, "Oh wow, what a nerd," but it did. Like I
Nerd.
like well, like I love acting, and I'm always gonna love acting. I've done stage acting, I've done film acting. And I know that that's what my passion, that's what my talent is. But I would not have pursued that as strongly had I not been like edged on by anime. Like I remember I was watching a video on YouTube of the voice actor for Alucard for the English dub, Crispin Freeman, and he was talking about like how he had nothing to do with anime before he started out. The dude did professional Shakespeare. I think he was in like Hamlet or something like that.
Wow.
And he was in Texas, and someone saw him perform, and they're like, "Hey, do you want to voice?" And I don't even think it was for Helsing was his first role. I think he got Kyon from Haruhi Suzumiya before he got Helsing.
What a jump.
Right? And then like you see it's like Kyon's like, "Oh man, like you're bothering me." And now then you see him in Helsing, he's like, "I'm gonna tear your throat out." Like Helsing Ultimate, if you haven't seen Helsing Ultimate, see it if you're of age. That is not an anime for kids. But yeah, like you know how you guys are saying how anime influenced us in different ways and did these different things. For me, it literally said like I was like, okay, I'm gonna do acting. It helped me discover that I had this passion for acting. But then in that acting, it reminded me, hey, I'm still here. You know, how can you incorporate me into your passion? I was like, oh, voiceover work. And I love being able to share that with my friends who are, you know, who think, oh, acting just kind of like a fun thing you do on the side. I'm like, no, there are like people make livings off of this. They have jobs there. You know, you have like Monica Rial, Jamie Markey, Sean Shamel, Laura Bailey, Todd Habercorn. These are like huge names for voiceover. You know, Troy Baker, of course. They started out with a passion. You know, they were nerds too. You know, I don't know how many of them started out just doing anime. I know, for example, I think Lucy Christian, she's the voice of Hestia in the English dub of, is it Danmaki or Danmachi?
Danmachi, yeah.
Yeah, Danmachi. She's also the voice of, oh my gosh, I can't remember her name. It's been like, I know, I've seen, I watched all this, I watched the whole series in one day and I still can't get the name right. But it's not Chihiro. My goodness. Forgot her name. But she's also the female protagonist in Full Metal Panic. I know her first interaction with anime was she like walked in on some of her not her friend. I think there's people. She was in college. She walked in on them in the quad, like or not the quad, in the cluster, watching like hentai on a TV in the cluster. And she's like, "What is that?" And like, "Yeah, man, this is anime. This is the next level. This is like what you know, down with Western culture. With like, this is what's happening next." It's just like bad. Between 70s and 80s like hentai. Like, and that's what like our first interaction was. So it influenced us all in different ways. But all that to go back and say, like, it's really cool to be like how Mia was saying, to share it, share our stories with younger generations, and in a way it be encouraging, because not only, you know, do they have these characters in, you know, I'm just gonna name like some of the modern day like series that are going on. My hero, you see Deku, who was like weak. And like but he had like the heart of a fighter. He had the heart of a hero. Like no matter what was against him, even if he had nothing to give, he was going to throw himself in there and do it. Kids watch that and take that, you know, how you were saying, Wally, into like the real world. And they're like, you know what? I have a final and I'm bad at this. I'm bad at this subject, but I'm going to give it my best. You know, as cheesy as it sounds, it's like, what would All Might do? He wouldn't give up. I'm about to plus ultra the shit out of this test, you know?
I wish I had that mentality.
Yeah, exactly. Like that's the thing with anime or shows specifically. Like it puts us in hypothetical situations that we never experienced before, and a lot of cases with the stuff that we and not realize that we end up watching is the experiences these characters have are way worse usually than anything that we'll ever go through, and it puts our struggles in retrospect, you know, like as in, well, I'm not dying, but if I were, I gotta make every moment matter, because the main character that I admire, like, he fought like hell, you know, like, so why am I just gonna give up just because it's a simple test? Like, you know, there's some, you know, that's obviously an extreme correlation, but anything in between, like if it's like a normal drama or like a high school comedy, the sentiment is still there, where you know who's cool, you know who's an idiot, and you know, you could tell who you want, like who you choose to be. Like if you like the funny guy, you tend to imitate the funny mannerisms. If you like the cool guy, then you would go towards the cool guy mannerisms. Like, oh, that guy's super smart and cool. Like, I want to be like that, you know? So,
you know, Wally's right.
Yeah, that definitely influences you. Like, you could be a single kid, like have no role model, that these animes suddenly they become the role model. You know, they become the influencers that shape our attitudes, and not only our personalities, but it also shapes the crew that we end up being around with, type of deal.
Yeah,
So
it's like, I want to grow up and be Frieza, and you guys are my Ginyu Force,
Yo, Ginyu
Exactly.
Force was awesome, dude. I don't
Those guys
know.
were a bunch of punks. Those guys were
For
us in
sure.
high school. What are you talking
They were
about? Those guys
fabulous,
were
dude.
bums.
Hey, yo, that's a dub. I'll take it. Can I
Oh, they
also
bodied
can we
Raccoon, man.
somehow fuse the Ginyu Force like poses with JoJo poses? That'd be
Like-
that,
like
No,
that
JoJo
might be
poses are
kind
too
of fire.
powerful.
I need that crossover.
Yeah, like
It'd be
is that
like
High school us and Ginyu Force?
no.
Oh.
Ginyu Force
The-
and JoJo.
Yeah, your
Oh.
book.
Except the
Can
Ginyu
you
Force needs
imagine?
to be like stands because they're gonna die to like JoJo characters.
Oh my gosh,
True.
they bodied all of them. The only ones that put up any fight. Who put up a fight? Raccoon was just strong. I forgot. I need to go back and rewatch all of Dragon Ball Z in Japanese because I'm learning Japanese, and then switch subtitles to Spanish. So I learned Japanese and Spanish at the same time.
Oh, the Spanish dub though was fire, man. Now that's childhood
Dude, those
memories. I remember seeing that
those
shit in the
Spanish dubs
Saturday
are
morning.
crazy.
Dude,
Sometimes, man,
those are works of passion right there.
like
Sheesh.
back on the day when you had like no choice but to watch anime episodes on YouTube, and you have
Yeah.
no choice but to watch the Spanish dub with English subtitles.
Oh,
yeah.
Sometimes you just had to do it to finish the story because there'd be always that one missing episode.
Yep.
That one part, like, part 3 would be missing for some reason.
Over there
Always
screaming
part
out battle cries in Spanish.
Yeah.
I loved hearing different versions, like different language dubs. Do Kamehameha. Oh my god, those are. Have you guys ever heard of like the Big Green dub? It's like a French Canadian dub where they call Piccolo Big Green.
Yeah, what?
They're like,
Oh,
like
my
Piccolo shows up and Gohan's like Big Green.
Oh, dude, I need to watch this.
Goku says Kamehameha for everything. He goes Kaioken, flies up in the air, and he's like Kamehameha, like flying through the air, screaming Kamehameha. Oh man, it was so good. They called like Krillin Crunch. Like it was just guff.
Dude, that was like back in the day when it was like anything could go for like dub
It was Wild West back then,
It
yeah.
was, man. They said,
They're
"Hey, you want to
like-
dub an anime? Sure. Let me grab my kids real quick. Put them in front of the mic."
But I thought it was funny, like how you were saying, Ryan, like yeah, I think you were the one who said it. Like even now, like in our like current group, like how like how there's anime archetypes, but I feel like I can also see that within our own group, like there's specific archetypes for each person we have here.
Oh, absolutely.
Like it's amazing.
Absolutely.
Steph.
Yeah, for
I take
better
that
or
name
worse.
with pride, man. And then her voice actress for Steph from No Game No Life. If y'all haven't watched it yet, you're
It's so
scum.
funny because I was using it to make fun of Ryan. I was like, yeah, Ryan, you're our Steph because you haven't watched No Game No Life because he was the only one in our group that hasn't watched it. So we're, like obviously call him Steph if you're familiar with how the show goes. And this man comes back like 3 hours later. It's like, I am Steph. I will embrace it because she's the almighty one. I'm just all like, hold up, what? What did he say? I was confused. I was like, what?
Easily my favorite character in that whole series.
He's so funny though.
And
That's
then
'cause
like I
we threw
find
a
out
curveball. Sheesh.
exactly, man. I did the unexpected. I did the unexpected. I am a stand for Steph, but before Steph, I am a stand for Goddess Aqua. Best deity in any type of anime I've ever seen. You know, stand aside Shenron, stand aside what are some other gods in anime? Stand aside Hestia. I like my alcoholic water god. All right.
Shenron got nothing on Aqua. You know how many times she's brought back Kazuma from the dead?
Yeah, literally. Well, he died because of something they have done.
But
Oh,
still,
but I could go into Konosuba and just talk for years, bro. Talk for years.
Wait, Ryan. I did want to ask clarification about the moment specifically that made you decide that anime is it, like that you wanted to be involved in that, and specifically the voice acting part. Like, was that moment like when you saw an interview of the voice actor, or like, yeah, why voice acting, and like why voice acting in anime? What was that moment specifically?
Well, Wally, that's a real question. I wasn't ready for those, but I'll take it. No, for me, it was definitely watching those videos of the voice actors. I loved anime. I've always loved cartoons and anime. But when I discovered my passion for acting, and then it kind of like all clicked at the same time, and then I saw those videos. I saw a video of, like I said, Crispin Freeman. I saw a video of Sean Shamel. I think I must have watched every video on YouTube at the time of Monica Rial and Jamie Markey, who were some of my favorite voice actresses. I just saw the world that they live in, and I was like, I want to do that as well. As you know, as Liz Lemon would say from 30 Rock, I want to go to there. I want to, I want to voice act. I have a passion for acting. I love playing pretend, and that's essentially what actors do. We play pretend believably and honestly. And to be able to play pretend believably and honestly behind a mic and believably pretend that I'm piloting a mobile suit in the middle of a galactic war, come on. That is my dream. That is the coolest thing for me. And I think it was that at that moment when I saw, I wouldn't say a specific moment, but at that time when I was watching all those voice actor videos, I just got so inspired, and I was like, hey, I'm an actor. I've been acting my whole life. This is the type of acting I want to do. And I've pursued it headlong. I think I must have sunk at least, close to 10 grand into my voiceover setup over the years. Like, I mean, I have,
That's dedication right there.
I mean, I've gutted out my closet. My clothes is literally like on the floor somewhere else, so I could have a
I don't know what
sound.
you guys talking about.
Yeah, but I could have like my quality sound studio and get that studio quality sound. I've bought the really expensive microphones. I've bought the interfaces. I got the software. I've taken the classes. It all started from that like that time, like that moment / time where I saw that there are real people behind those mics essentially living anime. They know the difference. They know it's not real. And of course I do too, but it's like when they're behind that booth and when they're in that booth and they're behind that mic, Todd Haberkorn, he is Natsu. Monica Rial, she is Stocking from Penny and Stocking. Laura Bailey, she is Black Widow, in the Avengers. Having that kind of sink in, and I was like, hey, there's a chance I could do that too. And I just from that point on, it was full burner. I just blasted forward, and like, I think, and like it's been years in the making, but it's just it's paying off now. I'm seeing the benefits of that investment and all that time and work show up now. But yeah, dude, like, to answer your question, it was at like during that time when I saw those people behind the mic, and I was like, I want to do that.
Yeah. And I love specifically when you were describing this story about you mentioned a specific moment, which was like your dream was like to voice act someone who's like riding a Gundam, right? And that's like the electrifying dream, or like the vision, like the almost like the end goal. And I just wanted to like echo the sentiment by Brianna White. She's the voice actress for Aerith in Final Fantasy VII Remake, and she live streams, and I just fell in love with this game. I know it's not anime, but it's related. But
Yeah,
um,
definitely.
she just when I saw like little clips of her live stream, she there were so many times where she cried. It's an amazing game. Like the story and everything is amazing, and like the weight that the characters go through. But I think she's a novice voice actress, but because she just kept saying like she has little to no experience, but she was just super lucky to be cast in one of the leading roles, and obviously she did an amazing job. But she cried in so many parts of the series of the game when she was live streaming it. And it's because when I didn't realize this till she expressed it, and it was she was just experiencing the feeling that she was involved in a game or a story, to be specific, that will stick in people's hearts. And I think that's the true, like, that's the true end goal. Like, you know when you realize you've made it when you've worked on something that when you read the script or the story and you realize that this shit's real, like this shit's heavy, like it's gonna stick in people's minds, like they're gonna, this is a moral lesson that's gonna shape a kid's future, like when you realize that, you suddenly become eternal, like that you'll be replayed, your voice will be reheard,
Your
rewatched.
legacy. It's your legacy.
That's your legacy. You suddenly realize that you fulfilled your purpose, and it's not done yet. But I'm just saying, like, you did step one. Like, this is it. I've made it. So that was just the sentiment. Like, yeah, when you get to that part where you voice act or you become part of a work that you realize that it's a work that you love, then that's where I share the same sentiment. Like, I fell in love with certain shows so much. Not every anime I obviously didn't love, but and I'm actually not like I'm a fan of good stories, and it's just a lot of the stories that shaped me were in anime. So that's why I still watch anime and like look for the good stories within that medium, because it's just beautiful visually, and voice acting sometimes is just more dramatic. There's just in cartoons there's just certain gravitas in it that when they encounter like more dramatic situations, and that's why it's just a little bit enjoyable for me. But it's that sentiment, that yeah, we have a natural tendency to be involved in great things, and specifically great stories. So just wanted to share that.
Yeah. Low key though, I think we might need to have a "You Say Run" for both Ryan and Wally, because they were talking shit for the people in the back. I'm into podcasts, and even I was locked in. I was like, wait, what? I was like, yo, this shit's fire.
Oh, you run the soundtrack, yeah.
Yeah, for
that
real.
song goes with anything, bro. I think I was saying before, I watched a YouTube video called "You Say Run Goes with Anything," and it's a scene from the Tigger movie, like Winnie the Pooh.
Yeah, dude, I saw that shit.
Yeah, right. And then it's like when the mountains falling down and Tigger's like dodging through the trees and stuff, and like "You Say Run's playing, and I'm there, and I'm tearing up, and I just like, do it, Tigger, use Providence Burn, come on, like. But yeah, no, definitely. I mean, good. I mean, like that's so true. I think I read an article. I think it was on Kotaku. It might have been, and they were talking about that very same thing, Wally. Where like she was like when she saw her scenes playing out, it's like it's exciting. That's overwhelming. Like anime has its place, and people like so often write it off because of like kind of like a weird culture that's been built around it.
Or they'll just think it's like a cartoon.
Yeah, they just
Why
think
you
it's a
guys
cartoon.
the cartoons, like it's for kids. But...
Well, exactly. And then to that, I say, well, are you a stand for Disney? Do you go to Disney World? Do you spend like $1,200 to go in and walk around Cinderella's castle? You absolute psycho!
Why are you
Like,
calling me out like that, bro?
woo!
Yeah,
Bro, I'm the same way, man. But I'm at the Universal Studios. I go over there and I said, "Hey, Sorting Hat, tell me what hat, tell me what class I'm a part of." I said, "Boy, you a janitor. Get your ass out of the seat, dog." So that's part of the cleaning. It said I was a landscaper.
right, dude. It's not even class at your house, dude.
Not even, bro. It's just like, they said you actually work on the night bus, bro. You refill the tires.
Damn, not even good enough for Hufflepuff.
I even drive. I'm just a guy that checks the tickets and then gets off. It's like, okay, man, keep going.
Enjoy your time at Hogwarts.
Yeah, it's like I'll be here. Get my GED.
Oh, I love it.
To like get in the industry though, so just saying.
Huh?
You don't need a GED to get into the industry, like the anime industry. So
Hell no. That's the great thing about it too. Is like with arts fields, you just need passion.
Yeah.
You just need passion and drive, because literally you like you're saying, well, you don't need to have like some crazy education. It's like I went to Harvard for what? To be an anime character? Like it's like if you have the passion to do it, it's like I want to be an artist, I want to be an animator. You know what? You don't need to go spend take out a second mortgage to do it. You can go on Amazon, get a drawing tablet, take some drawing lessons, and just do it. And you work hard enough, and you work and you work and you work and you work
every day.
Yes,
you
sir.
gotta get it done.
Yeah,
like literally, like you could go out there, like what we're doing, right? Like we don't, like we're saying, like how you were saying you bought you have like this $10,000 like professional set. Some of us now, we just like literally like I know we've always wanted to do something like this, so like some of us went out there and bought like a not too expensive, but like a decently priced like microphone, and then we make it work. We work at it,
exactly.
Same thing with like streaming. Like streaming was something I've always wanted to do for the longest time. So I went out and buy like a camera and then just make it work. Like you don't need the most fancy thing or like Oh, I'm the Harvard voice actor, dude. If I was a Harvard voice actor, I would probably own it, dude. Like that's how you would be. Like your thing. You're like, I am the Harvard voice actor.
Yeah.
You just own it. But I'm just saying, like like you don't need the fanciest equipment, or like like a lot of people just start out with like the bare minimum. We could have
Yeah.
done this with like our Apple, like those cheap earbuds they give you, like
Literally.
phones. Like
Mm-hmm.
we
Well,
could
like
literally recorded our audio there and like made it work.
a
Like
perfect
we kind
example of that is Sid Snap. I don't know what her real name is. I just know her as Sid Snap or Gigic's fiance. And I feel like I know that sounds kind of bad, but like
Sydney.
yeah, Sydney. Like she started. I'm so dumb. Sid Snap, Sydney. She says in all her videos. I'm over here. I'm such a mouth breather. But like,
Bro.
but she does a video, and like, it was really cool to see because she goes back and listens to her old voiceover work, and she's a professional voice actor. She's done video games. She's done like she's worked professionally doing voiceover work.
Yeah.
But she goes back and listens to her old stuff, and she's cringing, of course, but she's like, I started this, and there's exactly what you said to me. She was like, I was on my iPod earbud mic, and like, and it didn't sound too great, but you know what? Did it stop her? No, she did it, and when she uploaded it, she was proud of that, and that's the mindset that people need to have when they're pursuing anything, really, but especially with the arts, And then as she went on, she got more passionate with it, and she kept going, and then you get a better mic. And then you get, eventually you get to that point to where it's like over the years, I've accumulated everything I need because like, yeah, I've dropped like, 10 grand on these setups, but I started collecting all this stuff and putting money aside for this when I was, not even in high school yet, so this is 10 grand over the span. I'm 26 now. I got an arts degree. I can't do that math, but that's a long time. My bachelor's in arts doesn't tell me how to add all that up. But,
Sure.
But it's like, it's over time. And that's just what matters. Like, like what you're saying, Wally, you don't need those. Like, if you want to go to college, that's great. But I think if you have that passion, you're going to find a way to get what you want.
Yeah, hold on. Let me be real for a little bit here. Let me just add nuggets of reality here. Like there's definitely privilege is definitely real, as in like those who have access to higher education, like those who have access to connections, those there are tangible benefits to spending money to get to where you want to be. And but by no means does that mean those who don't have those resources, it doesn't mean that they can't make it either. And because the truest thing is everyone starts a beginner. Everyone starts from scratch. And just like a Sid Snap who started with using only her like iPhone as a microphone or whatever, she'll probably be behind against a Sid Snap who started off at a college doing voice work, but nonetheless their experiences started from the same place at level 0. But it's more like who worked on it longer, like which version of Sid Snap started the voice acting at a younger age, like who worked on it harder,
Like who has that drive to like
who had the drive to keep persisting on it longer. They're the ones who will inevitably succeed in the industry despite all opposition, because it's that sentiment of we can't stop. We there's not like we are not allowed to stop by our own passions. And regardless if we have like the shittiest mic, we still do it. And every little thing counts too, because that contributes to your experience. And for instance, the Sid Snap who started off voice acting with her iPhone for like say a whole year continuously will be ahead of the Sid Snap who started off with a quality mic in school, but she only
does like once in a while type
it for like 6 months.
Mm-hmm.
Like the person who does it more. And obviously like you got to acknowledge like how to be better, because that's the thing that education does though. Like it tells you what quality is, it tells you what the industry or what people want. And even if you don't really care about that sentiment, you have your own ideals of what quality is, and you'll get to a peak, you'll get to a point where like, oh, I'm liking my drawing, or I'm liking my voice acting, like I think I'm good now. But then we still need to survive doing that, right? So then we try to look for jobs or something that would help us sustain our passions, and ideally, the dream job is the job where we don't feel like we're working. It's the job where we feel like we're playing all the time.
And
So
like I feel like I can
Mm-hmm.
kind of like relate to that, Wally, like from what your example was like, because like I feel like when we started the whole video production or like photography production, like that definitely started out as like a passion project, like something we, or maybe not passion project. I think it kind of just started out for something for fun. And then like obviously like we're not gonna get super into details, but I feel like obviously at that point we're amateurs, right? Like we were kind of just going with the flow. Like we fortunately we like we did have like at least one DSLR and one decent like digital camera we were able to use. Um, but I feel like what you were saying is true, because like I remember like I kind of wish that like yeah, like I was very proud about like the videos that we produced in that like 3 years that we were doing it for. Like what like I remember the steps like I didn't like it was something I always like cinematography, like I always like figuring out how like things were shot for movies and how they edited stuff, so like video editing was something I've always wanted to do. And I even remember like yeah, I had editing program. I think it was just iMovie at the time, like just the basic iMovie because I had a MacBook. And then like I do remember kind of just like I'm just gonna hop into it. I'm just gonna kind of see how it was. And then like obviously like I always would run the videos through you and Chavez just to make sure, see what I could
Mm-hmm.
improve. So that's where I kind of like understand like like you really do like use others people feedback to improve upon yourself. But what I wish I did was like like yeah, I feel like I personally thought like the production I was putting out was good enough. But I know personally, like what you're saying, Wally, like if I really wanted to improve or like really like had that like extra passion to make it like a career, like I should have like went out there and like taken like actual like classes on like how to make it better, or instead of just kind of relying on your friends' feedback, like oh yeah, you could tweak this, you could tweak that. I feel like there's a lot of steps you can do to try like improving it, like taking classes, or maybe even like trying to find like a job that would help out in that field. And then I think that's something that I kind of one of the regrets I kind of have was like not really trying to fully pursue that, because it is something I still like to do. Obviously, like we're still doing the podcast or streaming, so like I was always like into this type of thing. But I wish it was something that I like actually like went out and developed. But well, like you were saying, like it started from nothing, but it also like like it's a mixture of like passion and drive to see like how far can you go, because
Mm-hmm.
like there could be a alternate version of me that's like a successful like movie like editor or somewhere, or like made something of it, like maybe a YouTuber or like something like that.
yeah, and to clarify with what you experienced, Emil, specifically, because it's more distinct than what me and Ryan experienced, because we went, oh, like it
Yeah,
was related to our careers and we actually went to school for it. But yeah, like the whole like, that's essentially what indie artistry is. Like it's learning shit on your own. And to clarify, that's still a thing that happens. There's a good amount of successful artists that were indie. Like their education was mostly like self-taught,
yeah,
and so as in it can still work, and we experienced that firsthand. As in, like, remember how we'd stalk, not stalk, but like I'm talking about like online researching other essentially rivals, like other videographers. Like
just
by
kind of see what
rivals,
they were doing.
yeah, by rivals I mean like we were looking out for competition that we admired. Like we loved their work, like their cinematography, let's say, and all we wanted was to one up them. Like obviously we'd fall short on many things, like perhaps like with the rigs or anything like that, but our goal was always been to one up whoever we admired. And
Or
that's what,
yeah, and even to
yeah,
like one up what we just did before.
that as well, yeah, for sure. And it's that drive that like we wanted to be as good as the people that we looked up to. and simultaneously we wanted to be better than who we were, like, the convention before. So the but yeah, so that was just my sentiment in terms of, like, yeah, you don't school is for certain people, and it definitely works for very sociable people. Like, there's benefits to um that culture or that society. And while in contrast, there are those, perhaps you could say, more introverted or just more isolated people that somehow they develop an eye just by experiencing other people's work that
It's kind of
inspired
like that
well.
natural, like innate ability to produce something.
Exactly, and that's the awesome part about art too. Like, let's say, a lot for me, for instance, like, a lot of what inspires me visually is freaking music videos. That's like the perfect, like, drug for artistic passion. It's a combination of, like, musical synergy as well as, like, visual cadence and, like, harmony, and
Hmm.
and you learn rhythm and timing with that too. So uh sometimes, like, I feel like if you just study, like, really amazing music videos and try to imitate that, it's kind of like a cheating level up. Like,
Yeah,
you'll
because you'll kind of like pick it
probably,
up.
yeah, you'll probably make, like a final project that rivals people who go to school, just by finding, like, a really quality amazing product that you copy. And that's where a lot of art comes from, actually. Like,
Sure.
it involves copying someone's work that you admire, and then making your own out of that, and then becoming your own thing.
And then, like, even going off of that, like, one of the proudest things I feel like I've ever made creatively was, I don't know if you and Ryan, Chavez and Ryan actually knew that, me and Wally actually recorded and filmed and completely planned out a video for one of our family members' 18th birthday.
Oh yeah.
So
Oh no.
we yeah, so it's like in the Philippines, it's a, was it a debut
Debut.
or cotillion?
Yeah.
It was
Yeah.
one of those two. Yeah, so something kind of similar to quinceanera, since you guys are like, if you're more familiar with that. But
Hmm.
that is one of the most proud things I am that me and Wally have actually ever made. And I just remember, like, because before, a lot of the times when I was editing like our anime convention music videos, or like, cosplay music videos, a lot of the times it was just me sitting like at the computer, like editing by myself. I'd finish it, send it off to Wally and Chavez, and then they'll review it, tell me what to do. I'll do it again, and then, like, until, like, we get a good pass. But this was the first time I actually sat with Wally pretty much throughout the entire editing process. And, like, I
Hmm.
feel like I learned so much just from, like, like, just sitting here with Adobe Premiere open, and then we're just going through, like, a little bit everything, like how precise we were trying to make it. Like, we were like what Wally was saying with, like, music videos, because essentially it was a music video. We were like really being meticulous. Like, we're trying to sync it perfectly to this song from Goblin, one of the K dramas, Beautiful Lie, I think it was. I hate that song now. We listened to that song over like
The
two
curse.
thousand times or something. Oh yeah, I love the song. It's a beautiful song, but, like, like, that's how meticulous me and Wally were. Like, I actually learned so much just from that editing session, like transitions, like how to do transitions a lot better, even just like cutting and syncing video to make it like look nice. Like, I learned a lot, and actually, even though some of the times I was falling asleep while me and Wally were doing the fine tuning, no matter if I drank energy drinks, but, like, that's what I'm saying. Like, Wally has more of a professional background in, like, video editing or special effects than I do. But, like, that's the thing. Like, you never know who you're gonna meet in life. And then, like, I picked up a lot of the things and have improved myself from video editing just from, like, working with Wally for like a month straight on this video. And, like, yeah, well, the equipment we might have had was not the, like, it's good, but it's not the best. But, like, that's still one of the, like, best videos I think we've, like, ever made. And, like, it made people happy. And I was like, that's all really that matters at the end, right? Like, if someone else is happy from the work you do,
Yeah.
then I'm happy.
Your
Yes, sir.
legacy. Yep.
And you never know. You mean you could have encouraged someone else to, one of your family members down the line, like, oh man, remember that video that Emil and Wally worked on? Like, that was so cool. It's like, I kind of want to try. You never know what they're gonna do. Like totally. These are them good combos.
For sure. Hell yeah.
Yeah, like you just never know, right? Like who knew like a couple like years ago just from like doing convention stuff or video editing, like who knew we'd be getting into like stuff like podcasting or even like Twitch streaming or like other stuff like that, right? Like it's kind of like that turn of life, like you never know, like, oh, that's cool. Like I never knew I was gonna be doing this. And it's kind of like just a different flavor of like your passion, or kind of like the different flavor of what you're trying to do. And I think
Mm-hmm.
it's a cool like industry like that. Like it's so interconnected to everything that I mean that's why we're like really into it. And we all love it.
Yeah, it's like an interesting, like, kind of like gateway where it's like, we all have a common love for anime, and like, Ryan with his voice acting, Wally with Wally with like art and animation, Emil with editing, and yet here we are. We're on a podcast. Granted, unfortunately we're in COVID, so circumstances are kind of bad. But either way, we're still making it work. We're all still chatting and having good times, even if we're all like, or even in my case at least, even though I'm far as hell in a completely different state, it's cool that we can still have chats and still connect over common interests and shit.
Well, yeah, it's like. Go ahead, Wally.
Yeah, Chavez, I just wanted to bring the mic back to you for a little bit more, only because I'm curious in terms of like your perspective in that perhaps could be very much more closer to what our audience might be feeling in terms of the medium. But like, where do you stand in terms of like where you are / where you want to be with the anime industry? As in, like, are you content with just being what do you call it, like
A weeb.
digesting, like, you're content just being a fan and you just want to take everything in, or did you have an ultimate end goal where you do want to be in the industry type of deal? Or did you have any thoughts or regarding that?
That's actually a good question. In terms of like the industry, I don't I don't think I ever really had like a burning desire, or like a kind of like a passion to join, not like Ryan or like, well, or Wally, and like to actually enter the industry. For me, it was more just like it was a passion, and like it was just such a constant in my life that I'm a mass consumer. Like I said before, I buy the Blu-rays, I buy the light novels and manga, and like like I play like all the games and like the anime, and pay like, or and have like the subscriptions and stuff to help, like like it was such a big part of my life that sure, in high school and stuff we'd all be like torrenting or like going on sites to watch, but now as a working adult, I'm like, hey, this is such a big part of my life, I can't just continue kind of just not trying to support the authors or creators or illustrators. Like I'll even like do like commissions and shit, or like when I'm at Anime Expo, or when I was at ASIN too, it was like I try to buy like as much stuff also from like the indie people that I like too. Like if I was like, yo, I saw this really cool art on like Twitter or like Instagram, and I would see them like, oh, hey, they're going to be at Anime Expo, cool, I'll look them up in the like pamphlet or what have you, and like head over there into Artist Alley to be like, yo, can I get like 3 prints or whatever? Like, oh, a 3 for 40, whatever, fuck it, I really like your art and I want to support you.
Yeah.
Like if I have the funds to do it, then yeah, sure. I mean, shit.
Yeah.
Like I'm not like I'm not artistic in the sense that like I don't know how to draw. I don't particularly think I have the voice for voice acting or like the vocal control to like do singing or acting like Ryan does. And I'm not really quite as experienced with editing with like software with like like Adobe Pro or Sony Vegas and like all those. Like I don't have that experience, but for me, I just loved it. Like when we were doing uh, like photo shoots and everything. Yeah, when we were doing like at a carne, like I loved it just because it was like, holy shit, like there's a bunch of cosplays, like a bunch of people in cosplay of characters I know from like vividly from like reading it in the manga strips, or like just watching it in the anime form. So it was cool to then like tell them like, hey, can you try it out this pose, and then see it in real time. Like that was just fucking cool. Like for me, like career wise, I think for me, I was always going to go into tech. I was just, again, like I guess you can say stereotypical like nerdy kid who's into like math and shit, who also happened to be into anime. And yeah, and now I know happily I'm in a job in like a job living situation where I can now pay back that love for anime and manga and just the whole industry in general. Now that I'm a professional now.
You
Yeah,
get
see,
paid for my NSFW ASMRs now, Chavez.
I know, right? They're gonna be like, yo, here's my OnlyFans, and I'll be like, oh, sign me up.
Like, Oni-chan, let me get some of them chicken nuggets, Oni-chan.
Can I get some chicken tendies, Oni-chan?
I'll give you a chicken tendy, all right.
yeah, I just wanted, Chavez, I just wanted to spotlight you a little bit. It's specifically because of your position of being a consumer, and not only like, now that you told your story, that you essentially reflect what's like the last part of like the culture that is just as important, if not, or yeah,
It's
actually
arguably
just
like,
as important as anything else, and it's
yeah,
really it's the consumer that it's the bloodline. You are the blood of the industry, like
Yeah.
the consumers who, the people who were touched by the author's work, and then they carry that love with them all the way till when they grow up and they start having jobs. And it's amazing that, like the medium or the story still latched on, that you continue feeding that entertainment, because it's not just merely to support them, it is also to indulge on your own things, because that's what you're into still, and I love that you I guess it's perhaps a little closer or relevant because it's tech or whatever, but it's still the sentiment that the medium can still touch people from all types of walks of life. And
Mm-hmm.
like you could be a manager at a store, or a dancer, or really anything. Like the medium can touch everyone. Uh and it's like, there's a weeb inside all of us that we kind of just don't realize, or perhaps we put aside, but there's always some appreciation at some point of the day that there was a story that was a cartoon, or an anime back in the day that stuck with us all the way till we grew up. And and those who keep with that culture are like definitely
Mm-hmm.
essential. They're the ones that drive the artists as like much more than anything, really, like everyone's support. Like, yeah, your end, like your the consumer, essentially, that's a pivotal role in this whole like kind of like balance of the culture. Like without you guys, then the industry just falls, the artist just starves,
Yeah.
like it'll just be appreciated without being supported, so
Mm-hmm.
yeah, we don't want to end up with more like kind of like Van Goghs, or like those old artists that only became famous, and yeah, only became famous after they're dead. So that really sucks. And they're, when they were alive, they've been painting, but they were like broke as heck. So that's it's a our current generation is definitely like super lucky that we have a means to publish or make products, like publish a podcast, or make a webtoon, or make a comic, like all on our own, more so than ever. We don't need like to pay for an advertiser or anything. Like, yeah, we're among the luckiest because we can directly connect with any fan, and the fan can directly support the
Yeah.
artist. And it's
Mm-hmm.
like, your part of the story is just as crucial, and I appreciate that. Okay, that's all I got.
No, it's funny though, because you bring that up, like, like appreciating the artist. And I've definitely run into, and tell me, Wally, if you run into this, because now you do commissions sometimes. If you run into people who like say, well, if my project gets big, you'll get exposure. Like,
Oh,
as an excuse to not pay you.
yeah.
Oh my God.
time.
The amount of times I've had someone like say, well, I want you to do my Minecraft roleplay. And I was like, okay. And it's like, and the script is thick. We're talking like, I'm trying to think of like a really thick anime character I could quote. We're talking like Janemba stage 2 or stage 1 thick. And I'm looking at it, and the word count's easy, like 2,000 words or like lines I have. And I was like, this is a lot. And they're like, I was like, how, what's your pay? Like, what are we gonna pay? And they're like, well, a lot. I've YouTube. I have a lot of YouTube subscribers. So like, if it blows up, people will say you played, you know, this guy on my Minecraft thing. I was like, yeah, no, that's not like that's a lot of work. They're like, well, exposure. You get exposure. And I was like, you know what, buddy? Do you know that you could die from exposure?
Yeah. Wow, I like that.
Right? The next time someone tells you, Wally, it's exposure, you say you can die from exposure. Did you know that?
I like that. That's some dad joke right there.
I know, right? But it's so true.
So real though. Like
it is, because it's just like I was on Twitter today, and this artist, she posted how someone hired her to do a commission, and she said, it takes me, for what you're asking, it's going to take me at least a week to a week and a half to get it done or something like that, which is fine. If you want good art, you wait for your art. This dude texts back like an hour later. He's like, can I see my sketch? She's like, sorry, I'm still working on it. I want to make sure I give you the best stuff. 7 hours later, the dude messages back, where's my art? I want to see my sketch. She's like, it's not ready yet. Like I had to eat, I'm living a life too. He's like, you're garbage, blah, 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 blah. You're not even a good artist. You shouldn't charge. You have the audacity to charge this much for your art. And I was like, whoa. If you're so good,
yes, I will.
You draw your Pokemon fan character OC on your own, dog. What the hell? Like,
yeah.
People like kind of not underestimate, but they like underappreciate artists until they turn around and say, well, if it's so easy, you voice that character, or you animate that, or you draw that OC.
Yeah. Ryan, yeah, this topic could be its own episode, and it's honestly it's the artist's gripe. It's like if you've read about like all facets of the art industry long enough, specifically the indie art, like there's an unfortunate reality where in the education system the schools are just pumping out way too many artists than there are jobs. So inevitably what happens is, regardless of the quality of like, and talk about like your level of artistry, whether you finish school or not, we inevitably face each other as competition, and this oversaturation of artists ends up with a lot of clients that not expose take advantage. They just take advantage of all the artists who are desperate for work and like something in their portfolio, and a lot. So on top of these clients who just mess up the art economy by not paying them the sufficient amount, it's also unfortunate for the artists, and that we enable that too, like specifically the artists who are okay with doing shit for free or for little. Anyone who's respectable in the art industry will always tell you, when you work for someone in terms of like a client relationship, obviously there are exceptions, like if you just want to do a favor for your friend, that's a whatever. But in terms of if you want a healthy relationship with a client, there has to be pay, and you have to demand the pay that is fair for you, and that's something you also got to figure out on your own too, as in like assess, you got to pay. Do you want to be paid an hourly rate? And if it's hourly, figure out how long it will take you to finish something like this, and that would come along with experience, of course. And obviously you're going to mess up with the numbers here and there, but the goal is to be paid the amount that you feel is right for yourself. And that whether that means you calculate the numbers and you multiply it by the hours, the rate of pay that you decide for yourself, and perhaps it's again, along with the unfortunate thing where like along with noviceness or like inexperience comes with like underballing themselves, like, oh yeah, I'll do it for like only $12, and then they end up working on it for like a whole week type of deal. So that all of that is related to how there's just too many artists, and there's a lot of people exploiting these artists, and there anyone with like a decent enough savings can pop up with an idea and want to hire someone, and then with the person that they would end up hiring will also they would expect them to accept their meager pay, because that's just how exploited artists are. So like I said, this topic is like can be its own thing, but it's really an unhealthy current event, or an unhealthy situation that we're currently still experiencing. And I think there needs to be a constant reminder with artists across the board to
Hold your
raise
ground.
and be equal with how they value their time and their talents. So
No, I as you were talking, I added it to the schedule, and I was like, the artist gripe episode. But speaking of like artists and artists and gripes and just art, I kind of want to talk about real quick, like what are some projects we've been trying to approach now that we've had this COVID time? Like, I know for me, I've been really hitting my voiceover more and auditioning for a lot of indie projects. While he had touched on it, like, there are some things like I've done for free because it's a passion project. I got cast in a really fun webcomic dub, which has been great. I'll put it in the show notes, but it's called 1HP Club. It's amazing. It is such a funny comic. I'm happy I didn't read through all of it right there and then, because I'm like, I get to sit there and read it throughout the day. But also I can't like say what it is, but I actually got cast in my first ever video game.
Nice.
go.
Congrats. Let's go, baby.
Yeah.
Better than eroge. I will not accept if it's not anything but an eroge.
It's a first-person shooter eroge.
You shoot their clothes off or something? Hell yeah.
But so I mean, like those are things I've been focusing a lot more. I'm also trying to like learn the Weeb calling card, trying to learn Japanese. But that's just something I've been doing. And of course the podcast and the project. But like, what are some other things you guys have been up to, like while COVID's been going on?
I kind of been on the same page with you, Ryan. Like, I was a couple months during quarantine when I wasn't working. I was having Chavez like give me resources to learn Japanese. So I kind of started but stopped that. So that's something I do want to get back into. I've actually, just as a general consumer, I've actually been getting back into anime, because like there's a couple year period where like I kind of like fell off of it. So now I'm kind of like playing that like catch up game.
Yeah.
Like watching everything from like the 2015 to like 2018 era. So I'm just like watching like Konosuba, like just JoJo, like name it all. I'm just catching up on all that. But I guess more on the creative side, like I've been trying to push streaming on Twitch. Like I actually wanted to, we've been planning. I've been helping you, Ryan, help set up your stuff for Twitch. Like,
Yeah.
This is something I want to keep doing more on the regular basis, just kind of for fun, just to see where it goes.
Yeah, totally.
But it's like I enjoy like streaming all the times we've done it. And collecting quintessential quintuplet mangas.
Yes, sir.
I will leave mine at that.
How about you, Chavez? Because I kind of want to I want to be the last part.
Yeah, no problem. Yeah, I was all like, wait, is it?
I want to close this shit out.
Yeah, I was like, wait, am I closing out? What's going on? But nah, for me, yeah, like, and kind of like near the beginning, yeah, like I was helping Emil out with like Japanese, because like I have like the Genki books, I have like a bunch of like apps and kind of like other resources just from like trying to learn Japanese. Unfortunately, same as Emil. I've kind of stopped though. For me, it's kind of more also just because of work,
Dude,
getting more hectic and shit.
It's that third language you try picking up is the hardest one.
Yeah, you would think it'd be easier, but I don't know. It's weird. It's like, I don't know. It is kind of weird. It's like, come on, like I can bust out fucking Twitch lingo like it's no problem. But for Japanese, I'm all over there like, what?
Hajimashite?
Yeah, I'm like, what? Like outside of like super keywords, like we know how to say it just from like constant like exposure and shit.
You just how to say it from the tags, bro, on the website.
On the tags. On the site that will not be mentioned, not in this episode at least. But yeah, it was like with the Japanese and stuff. But then Other than that, though, it's kind of more like just like learning, like trying to like get certificates and shit. But that's more like for like
Work
work
stuff.
and shit. Yeah. But I definitely do want to kind of focus. Probably, well, I definitely do want to get back into like actually hitting the books and the apps and trying to relearn Japanese again, and actually put an effort and making a consistent
Well, Emil and I were saying how we
schedule.
want to do that too, and like you're kind of like our father in
Japanese,
that aspect.
Japanese study group. I think we should do it.
Oh yeah,
Oh
I'll
yeah.
break out the sailor
With this
costume.
shit. Who's gonna be our tutor?
Chavez, dude knows how to speak it. The hell?
I
Or
say
one of
his-
the so me and Ryan are the beautiful members of the quintuplets family.
Yeah, dude, that yellow hair butler. No.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Shit, I'll take it. Shit, I'll take the tutor role. Pog.
Sensei Chavez. We
But
about
Yeah,
Oh.
just use your eroge as the teaching tools, dude. Like people have books, the eroge
Now,
and
is-
the dojins.
Dude, you gotta make a game, right? Where it's like those like puzzle games where like so every time you learn
Like
like,
Honey Pop.
so like every time so like you learn like the proper hiragana form or whatever, and then like you remove a tile.
Bro,
You know what I'm talking
and that's like those old StarCraft, like
Yeah.
StarCraft 1, Warcraft 3 custom maps, which is like a picture of like a naked anime girl, and it's like mine all the trees or get all the minerals. You can see the picture. Remember that? That's what that reminds me of.
Yeah, dude, and then like
Sheesh.
the hiragana or katakana of each like part that you end up mining is actually like the name of that like clothing piece.
So you learn the word too.
Bra.
Japanese for degens.
Yeah.
I'll be like, oh, is that what that means? Samoshiroi. And all of a sudden, it's actually making sense now. Oh,
Somebody out there
shit.
make this a game. You'll steal our $1 million idea.
It's truly Galaxy Brain. Sheesh.
What about
But
you, Wally?
yeah. Yeah, I'm interested
yeah.
to hear what Wally says. What have you been working on, my boy?
Yeah, only because I had like to collect my thoughts, but just to briefly talk about COVID. It's just weird for me because it's a little reverse. But before or when COVID happened, like right before COVID happened, I got employed in a really good place, and essentially I just went ham on that. And then when COVID happened, it's like I reverted back to my natural habitat. By that I mean, before COVID or before I was employed, I was unemployed for many, many years, and it involved me like being just stuck in my like essentially being quarantined because I treated my job as I gotta look for a job. And then when after applying, I'd spend like 8 or maybe like 4 hours trying to apply. And then eventually I got fed up with that. And on the rest of my spare time, I would look for, like free work. There was definitely a phase where I was doing that, and that just for the experience and exposure. And then eventually I got fed up with that as well. And it made me think like, you know what? I only want to work for clients that would pay me fairly. And that's when I started demanding a price, and a lot of the clients that I had left. So it makes sense. Like once
Yeah.
they realize they can't exploit you anymore, they would
They'll
leave
move
and
on.
do not want those.
Yeah.
You don't want to inhibit that culture, and you don't want to devalue your self-worth as well. So that was just like the interesting thing that I experienced in my own version of quarantine pre-COVID. And then finally I got so fed up with feeling that I was just like some mule at the mercy of corporations that I'm not even interested in. Like the ones that I really was interested in most likely don't even see my resume because, like, for instance, Disney, let's say, or like any anime studio, like animation studio, I'm pretty sure a lot of people that are way more talented than me hit them up and stuff. And but then by no means am I saying like don't apply to that, but I'm just saying like it's the natural nature of artists nowadays. It's just there's just so much competition, and you got to stand out to some
It's like in
degree.
the industry, right? Like people who work for like Universal or like DreamWorks, or there's like a pre-notion of like, oh, they came from like this prestigious like university or like animation school type of thing.
Yeah, and not to mention, like as I mentioned that earlier, that since there are so many artists and so not enough work, the artists that have the most experience in the industry actually get recycled, because once
Yeah,
they're finished with a project,
we'll work
they
on the next
work
one.
on another project because
Mm-hmm.
they're
Mm-hmm.
just that good. So that's just the nature of the industry, and it's like we all gotta wait till someone retires to so that a new position will be filled up. So that's just the unfortunate part about it. And not there's not enough people who have enough money to hire enough, like a new team of like novices to make a project. So that's that's just the nature of things. So when I was realizing that in my own version of unemployed quarantine, that's when I thought, like, fuck it. Let If I'm gonna work for free, I'm gonna work for myself. So thus, within the span of like a year and a half, I decided to just make my own story. Like I made my own comic, and what inspired me to do that was actually, um, what inspired me what inspired me to do that was, uh, there was an artist that I admired on DeviantArt at the time, and the DeviantArt community was pretty cool, as in like it's really just artists almost hanging out and like sharing each other's drawings. It's all drawing for fun, and that was part of like what kept me going. I was drawing for fun along with the artists that I admired,
Mm-hmm.
and then one event was like, it wasn't anything big. It was just like an artist that I follow, and he was just like, I want to hold an art or a comic contest, like a mini comic book contest. And it's like what they were looking for really was a one panel, and and the time slot was like a week. And then I was like, yeah, make any story. It just has to be minimum one panel, or like like one page rather, not one panel, but one page. And the winner will get a shout out, or like a free subscription that I'll pay for their subscription for the premium version of DeviantArt and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
And that I didn't care for the premium. I just cared that about winning. Like I wanted her to acknowledge like my quality. So I went ham on that. I went ham within the week, and I popped out a comic. And that when I realized from that constraint that I was capable of telling my own story within that limit, that's when I basically decided that I wasn't gonna be held down to my own limitations, and instead I was gonna
Nice.
work for myself rather than succumbing to anyone else's projects that may not even be done, or I won't even be passionate about. So basically
Mm-hmm.
that's what I established to myself. Like if I'm gonna work for free, I'm gonna work for myself for free. And thus I wrote my own comic rather. And it's a 25 episode comic. And that's the thing, like this was like what, 5 years in the making. So I wrote the whole thing, finished into completion for a year and a half. And essentially I sat on it for the rest of the year, because when it got to the drawing part, that's when it got more overwhelming, because I'm more of a slow artist, and I just take forever, like actually drawing things out, or visualizing everything. Even though I see it in my head, I sometimes just struggle um, putting it in its final form, and that's part of my limitations as an artist. So I have, in the interim of that, kind of like to abuse myself essentially. I printed out my script and my uh, character designs, and I pasted it all on all over my living room walls. And
Nice.
that was my conviction, to always remind myself that I must never work for free. My value is along these walls, and if you are gonna if you are gonna work for anyone else, make sure that work is worth it. Make sure that work justifies me ignoring my own work, like my own story that's incomplete, and it's very unfinished business, and it's very haunting, honestly, because my story actually involves a very personal experience that involved like helping someone or like saving someone essentially, but it's all in like metaphor and figurative speech, and it's perfect for an anime story, um, but luckily the that art piece, my comic, helped me find the right words to say to that person, and now we're in good terms, and now everything's fine, like, but it was just like
Nice.
I essentially animate myself, like as in like I made myself experience
Isekai himself.
something that yeah, yeah, so like I inception animate myself, where I made myself experience a moral lesson that um from a story that I just happened to make by myself. So uh, so that's why I still definitely have such a strong value with this unfinished comic that I have. Like I reread it every now and then, a few times a year, and I still laugh at it, and I still see the flaws, but I think the flaws don't matter because even the anime that I love, it has like
It's
flaws.
like part of the charm.
That's yeah,
Yeah.
flaws are inevitable, and ideally as an artist you definitely see the flaws more than anyone else, or rather you should see the flaws more than anyone else. That determines like the level of artist that you are. But yeah, that's what essentially came with my quarantine experience that got desynced with COVID. But now that COVID happened and I'm really lucky to have this job, I kind of decided from my previous experiences, I decided that I wanted to be a min maxer in life, as in, like I have this job, but I don't know how long I'm gonna have it. So
Yeah.
I want to get as much as I can from it, grow as much as I can from it, because I have a feeling that I definitely do not intend to stay in this job, because as much as how great it currently is, it's not where my passion is. My end goal is still to animate characters. It's still in storytelling. It's still in yeah, it's still in like sharing moral lessons that, stick with people. Like that's where my end goal still is. And that's why I'm kind of going all ham with my current job, because like I said, like I don't know how long I'm gonna last in here yet, but there is a good chunk of me that's saying that this can't be the end. Like
Nice.
this can't be
Like a
the
stepping
last.
stone to
Hmm.
get
Yeah,
to where you want to be.
That's what's up.
Yep.
exactly. And
Love it.
I mentioned this to Emil briefly, but you know, like I said with min maxing, I'm saving up money. I'm not spending anything unless I need to, and perhaps like maybe just to like indulge myself here and there, I will spend on specifically experiences. Like say a group decides to travel, I will do that once, or perhaps like go to a concert. I will do that once.
WeebUwU goes to Japan.
Yeah,
Yeah, yes.
Yes, sir.
yeah,
That'd be
it has I have to indulge in experiences, because those experiences are the ones that can be retranslated into a story. I didn't necessarily want to indulge in not I didn't want to indulge much in experiences that are a package. Like for instance, I didn't want to buy a lot of video games, even though games are great and they're their own version of anime. But I just didn't want to spend resources on it because of the sentiment of min maxing. Like I wanted my money to go mainly to one specific thing, and it would be towards my savings to make my comic happen. And really, I wrote my comic as an anime actually, and my initial goal was like, and I'm contemplating about it now that the more I'm saving up, I'm like, shit, like I know there was that like musician who commissioned a whole anime studio. How much did that cost? Like
Yeah.
like what
yeah.
is the capability of an individual just to save up enough money to make something happen, considering that money is part of what makes things happen. So, like how doable is this in my position? So that's what I'm talking about, like with min-maxing. I'm like, obviously I'm nowhere close to there yet, but it's something that I ended up considering, knowing that a lot of things in my situation is temporary. I'm as in, like, I know where I want to end in, and I know I'm not there yet. So I got to min-max to prepare to be in that spot. So that's how I'm dealing with quarantine.
Hell yeah.
That sounds like an amazing way to deal with quarantine. Like, hell yeah. That's encouraging. It's encouraging to hear artists kind of stand their ground and, say, this is, and say, this is what I'm worth and this is my goal and I'm going to do it. I'm right there with you, brother. Right there with you. I'd say that's a good place to wrap up, y'all. All of you, thank you for tuning in to this episode of WeebUwUs, and we hope to see you next time. So, depending on what things look like when this goes up, you could follow us on our Reddit, Instagram, or Twitter, or maybe even a Discord channel. Who knows? We're not there. We're not that far yet. But until next time, you stay WeebUwUlicious. Disgusting.
That's so gross, man.
Hey everybody, Ryan here. We hope you enjoyed today's podcast. Just wanted to let you know that if you want some more WeebUwU in your life, or you just want to get in contact with us, make sure to check out our socials. Links to the socials will be located in the show notes. As always, we hope to see you at the next episode.